You know, I travel a lot. We had the pleasure of driving over here from Indiana today. Beautiful day. Couldn't have been better. Weather very kind to us. I fly a lot, too. And you certainly see a lot of funny sights on airliners, I'll tell you for sure. I was on a plane coming from Atlanta to Indianapolis the other day, and I got 7 grandchildren. I think grandchildren are beautiful. But once in a while, you'll run into one. I was sitting on this plane right across the aisle. Some lady was sitting there holding a child that was just downright homely. I just couldn't take my eyes off of it. It's so homely. And she saw me looking at it. And she said, "What are you looking at?" Well, I said, "Lady, dang if I ain't the ugliest kid I ever saw." Well, now, she didn't like it. She hit me with her purse and started saying terrible things. And just stomping her feet, and here come the stewardess running. And the stewardess come up and said, "Lady, now I don't know what the trouble is, but we don't want any trouble like this on our airline. Now, you simmer down there, take her easy, and I'll bring you a nice cup of coffee. And not only that, I'll bring a banana for your monkey." Board put me up in a nice room here. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Small. Stuck the key in the door and broke the window. But it's a nice place. I don't think they trust people here, this motel. First time I ever saw a Gideon Bible on a chain. But it's a nice area. I do love Champaign. I'm down here a lot in Urbana. And, well, I've come into town a little bit early today and driving down the street, saw an old boy there. And I asked him, I said, "Where's the post office, Jack?" Well, he said, "How'd you know my name was Jack?" Well, I said, "I just guessed at it." He said, "Then why don't you guess where the post office is?" Some kid I pulled in the filling station, one of those junkyard dogs come out, you know, they scare me. Oh, this was a mean-looking thing. And I rolled the window down. I asked the kid, I said, "Is your dog biting?" He said, "No." I got out of the car, that darn dog nailed my arm. I thought I never would shake him off. Well, I said, "I thought you said your dog wouldn't bite." Well, he said, "That's not my dog." You like dog story? Oh, let me tell you this one. Now, if you've heard this one before, don't stop me. I want to hear this one again myself. This feller was sitting in a tavern, a great big mean guy. Oh, he was tough, holding his socks up with thumbtacks. Sitting there, and this door opened, the tavern, and a little mild-mannered fella come in. Little guy said, "Pardon me, who owns that big police dog out there?" This big tough guy said, "That's my dog." Said, "He's a killer. Been trained by the army. One of them attack dogs." Said, "Stay away from him. He's a killer." Little guy said, "I just wanted to tell you, sir, that my dog just killed him." The guy said, "What? Your dog killed that big dog of mine? What kind of dog you got anyway?" Little guy said, "A Chihuahua." The guy said, "Come on, how could a Chihuahua kill that big dog of mine?" Little guy said, "Well, he got stuck in his throat." You know, I found out farmers are the best people in the world to help you. They really will. I've known that for years. I've made a lifetime out of entertaining farm folks all over the nation. And I know I've traveled for a big feed company, a livestock feed company. I was given a big plug on our feed one time. And the farmer stood up out there. He said, "Stubby, I'll tell you how you can sell 20% more feed." Well, I wanted to know that. I could take it back to the head office and be a big man. I said, "All right, how can we sell 20% more feed?" Well, he said, "Fill up the sacks." Now, ladies and gentlemen, I grew up during the 20s and the 30s on a farm in Indiana. Some of you out there know what that was like back then. People today think they're poor. They don't know anything about it. We were poor back then, but we didn't know we were poor. because nobody told us we were. Today, it'd be several government agencies tell you how poor you are. But we got along good back then. But it was tough. But my mother was a champion at making things do. She could get by on less than any woman I ever saw. One of the ways she saved food, she used to give us beans for breakfast. We'd drink water for lunch and swell up for supper. Those were tough years on the farm, folks. I tell you, my dad now was a farmer, and he didn't go broke in 1929. My gosh, he saw it coming. He went broke in 28. But we worked hard on the farm back then and tried to do the best we could. But my folks never had any cash. We had plenty to eat. You know how that was. But today they talk about cash flow. Boy, ours didn't even trickle back then. Never had any cash. My mother'd go to the store with eggs and trade them for salt, sugar, you know, things we couldn't produce on the farm, coffee. But she never had any cash. Even as a child, if I needed a laxative, they never spent any money. What they used to do, they'd set me on my little potty chair and tell me ghost stories. You never had to do that, huh, Jerry? But all of you that grew up on a farm back in those days, you know how hard we worked, and we never had any money. We didn't get any allowance or anything like that. I bet I was 12 years old before I knew my name wasn't Get Cobbs. Y'all have a drought over here year before this last? Wasn't that something? We had that dry year. We were catching catfish over there. It had ticks. Oh, it was dry. Trying to make hay anywhere we could find it back then. I know that. And my gosh, I know we were making hay this past year. Hay was plentiful. But now we're making it in the big round bales. I was telling my crew of young boys how tough it was back in the old days when we made hay. Loose hay. Any of you out there ever put up any loose hay? Huh? Look at the hands out there. You bet you. My gosh, you had an old hay loader you pulled back of the wagon. You tried to keep from falling off of the wagon and loading that darn hay. Then when you got a big load of hay on there, all loose, thing was to try to get it back to the barn without upsetting it. I was coming down the road one time so proud I had a big load of loose hay on. Got right in front of the neighbor's house and the darn wagon hit a rut. It overturned right in the guy's front yard, all over the flower beds and everything. Well, I run in his house and I said, Oscar, would you help me set this load of hay up out here? Dad's going to be mad as the dickens at me. Well, he said, I will, but here, he said, it's time for dinner. You come in and have dinner with us and I'll help you set her up then. Well, I said, Dad wouldn't like that. He said, now listen, I've known your dad all my life. He ain't going to care. You come on in here. So I did. I went in, we had mashed potatoes, fried chicken, gravy, new peas, the whole thing. Had that big dinner. I said, now, come on, Oscar, help me set that load of hay up. Dad's going to get after me. He said, no. Now, he said, we've got some ice cream and cherry pie here and some coffee. We're going to have her dessert. Then I'll help you set her up. I said, I don't believe we... He said, come on. So I did. We had her dessert. I said, now, would you come on, help me set that load of hay up? Dad's going to be mad. He said, wait a minute. How come you keep saying your dad's going to be mad? Well, I said, he's under the hay. I had a wonderful thing happen. My grandpa lived in with us when I was just a little guy. And boy, if you've never had the pleasure of having a grandpa or grandma live in with you, you've missed something. My grandpa, I loved him. He was a great feller. He kept my parents from killing me. Grandpa was one of them funny grandpas. Had all them funny sayings, you know. It'll make me laugh. One he used to say, pull my finger, boy. You had one of them, too. That didn't cost nothing. Oh, gosh. Grandpa got a little hard of hearing as he got to be pretty old. We didn't know he was hard of hearing till one night he said the entire evening prayer while kneeling on the cat. And we knew we had a little trouble there. You know that old boy got married when he was 97 years old? Married a woman 96, like them younger ones. They had a big wedding, all the children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren there, big affair. Then they took off on their honeymoon. Spent the first 2 days of their honeymoon getting out of the car. Next morning, by gosh, the motel, bride was laying there kind of grinning, thinking over the previous day. She heard Grandpa in the bathroom raking around in there. She yelled in there, said, "You brush your teeth, honey?" He said, "Yeah, and while I was at it, I just brushed yours, too." I love folks when they get up in years a little bit. They kind of tell you like it is, and they're a lot of fun. We got Aunt Maud over there, 92. Wonderful lady. Never did get married. 92 years old. I asked her one day, I said, "Aunt Maud, how come you never did get married?" "Well," she said, "I'd rather want something all my life and never have it than have something all my life and never want it." I couldn't argue with that, hardly. But there's a lady that did everything for herself. She paid her own taxes, bought her own groceries, done everything herself. Got her own driver's license, everything. She even made out her own funeral arrangements. She was out of the room one day that was laying on her desk there, and I happened to look at her. Saw she had all women pallbearers. She come back in the room. I said, "Aunt Maud, I see you got down here all women pallbearers. How come no men?" She said, "They never took me out when I'm living. They ain't going to take me out when I'm dead." You know, you've got the right idea here tonight. Laughter. It's a wonderful thing. We don't laugh enough these days. We need to loosen up, have a little more fun. I think we used to take time to do that. We need to do more of it today. And you know, the medical profession has found out the importance of laughter to people who are desperately ill, people who need a lift. They found out their medication works better. They heal much faster with laughter and fun. And a lot of the big clinics are employing comedians. They're putting on movies, Laurel and Hardy, Three Stooges, things like this, and it's working, folks. So it's a good thing for all of us to listen to. Over in Indiana, near our home place over there, there's a very big mental hospital there. And one day the head doctor called me over there out at the farm and said, "Stubby, I've been hearing about this joke therapy on people in the medical profession. Let's try it on our mental patients to see if it'll work." Well, I thought, hey, that's a good idea. Let's try it. So on the appointed day, I went over, and the good doctor had the mental patients all packed in a room, just much like you folks are sitting out there. So I started telling them a joke, see if it would work. I told them about this little baby snake that was crying and monkeying around its mother there and hissing in her pit. And the mother said, "Get on out of here. Get out of here. Quit hissing in our pit." Said, "Go over there to Mrs. Potts and hiss in her pit." So the baby snake went crawling over to Mrs. Potts. Mrs. Potts saw it coming. She stopped, said, "Hold on, you're not going to hiss in our pit. Get out of here. Go back and hiss in your own pit." The little baby snake went back crying. Mama snake said, "What's the matter, honey?" I said, it's Mrs. Potts. Said, she won't let me hiss in her pit. Mama Snake said, don't you mind that Mrs. Potts, honey. Why, I knew her when she didn't have a pit to hiss in. You want to try that? Well, you know that. Now, those mental patients laughed just about like you folks did there. Except one guy in the back of the room stood up and said, Stubby, you stink. Go home. Oh, my gosh, I wasn't going to take that sentence down. So I tried another joke on them. I told them about these two rabbits that were running as fast as they could go. They were being chased by a pack of beagle hounds. Boy, those old beagle hounds were gaining on these two rabbits. This one rabbit looked over at the other and said, let's run down this hole here and stay down there till we outnumber them. Other rabbit said, keep running, stupid, I'm your brother. Oh, gosh. You know, going around speaking before good farm audiences everywhere, I have to dress pretty good wherever I go. It's not easy being a sex symbol for hog thieves, you know. But I was up in Chicago one day and I needed a new suit, and I went into a store there on Maxwell Street. Oh, some of you been there. I wanted this one old boy in there, and he was a good salesman. I went in, I told him I wanted a green suit. Well, he put one on, is all he had, one green suit, and he put it on me. It was about 4 sizes too big. Doggone sleeves hung about 4 inches over my fingers, you know. And I said, well, fella, this is not going to work. He said, now hold on just a little bit. I'm not done. He said, what you got to do is you got to juke your shoulders over a little bit. Now, he said, push your hands right straight down. So I did. I pushed them way down there. He said, now look at there. He said, your sleeves are about right. Well, I said, I'll be darned if they ain't. That's pretty good. But I said, what about this coat? It's hanging way down too far in front. Well, he said, you take your left hand and you kind of hike that up just a little bit there. I said, now, that looks better, don't it? Well, I looked and I said, now, that's pretty darn good. That's about right. But I said, hold on, look at them pants. They're 4 inches over my shoes. That'll never work. Well, he said, just a minute. He said, you got another hand, haven't you? I said, yeah, what am I supposed to do with it? Well, he said, reach around the back there. Get a bunch of that goodies back there. Now, he said, pull her way up there. And I did. Boy, gosh, I pulled her up there till I changed colors a couple times. I had her butt tight, and I said, well, I'll be darned. I said, that does fit just about right now. So I paid him. And I walked out of the store, walking this way. As I walked down the street, I passed 2 old ladies on the street. And one of them nudged the other and said, you see the terrible condition that young man was in. The other one said, yeah, but didn't his suit fit nice? Have you had the flu over here this year yet, huh? Well, hadn't that been something? My golly. It's been terrible. We've had an epidemic over there. The doctor just giving shots, just one after the other. In fact, my doctor put a sign in his front window that said, in order to save time, back into the office. Now, there's one thing that's changed, folks. You've got to admit it to what it used to be. Remember, the doctors used to have time to sit and talk with you a little bit, visit with you, find out how's the family doing. And, you know, nowadays it's just you're a number. They get you in there and say, get over here. and it just moves you real fast. I know I went in there one day, and I just had a sore throat. I told the nurse, I said, I got a sore throat. She said, go in the next room, take your clothes off. I said, I don't believe you heard me. I just said I got a sore throat. She said, now don't argue with me. We got a way of doing things here, and we move people. Said, you get on in there and take your clothes off. Do what I tell you. And boy, I moved. I went in there and took my clothes off. I was standing there, looked over in the corner of the room, another guy standing over there, dressed the same way I was. Barefoot up to our eyeballs. I said, isn't this ridiculous? I just got a sore throat. They made me take my clothes all off. He said, what are you griping about? He said, I come here to deliver a pizza. Oh, God. Well, you know, ladies and gentlemen, you're a wonderful audience here tonight. And a lot of people have asked me the question about if I'm married. Well, I certainly am, and like I say, I'm very happy that she's got to come with me here tonight. This coming September, we'll be married 50 years to the same lady. Thank you, I deserve that. She's a very nice lady. Oh, does a few things I don't care for. I mean, you guys all satisfied with the way your wife drives a car? Can't say much, can you? Mine scares me to death. I was with her one day, she drove right up the side of a wall. What made it interesting, we met another woman driver coming down. She came in one night and said, I scratched the fender on your car a little bit. Want to look at it, it's in the trunk. Wonderful lady, done everything right in our family. She's had to stay with the kids while they were growing up. Raised them practically single-handed because I was gone so much. Taught them all the right things, Sunday school, church, Bible school, FFA, 4-H, the whole thing. I come home one time and she was telling the littlest boy how important it was for him to have his own identity. She said, you are an individual person. You've got a name. People say you're Captain Stubby's boy. No, you're Dan Fouts. You've got a name, and don't you ever forget it. You're an individual. Boy, she just hammered it to him. But I had the kid in town with me a couple of days later, visiting with one of the merchants. He got through talking with me. He just naturally looked down at the boy. He said, well, by gosh, sir, you're Captain Stubby's boy. And the kid looked up and said, well, I always thought I was, but Mom says I'm not. I shouldn't do that. She's such a nice lady. My God. Just had to put up with a lot down through the years. But my gosh, you know, about 50 years ago we started with nothing. And we still got most of it left. But it's a great life that I've had down through the years, making people laugh and entertaining. She's into crafts now. I know a lot of you ladies do that. She makes things out of grapevines and corn shucks and things like that. It's a lot of fun. I got to tell this. She had some of the home economics ladies over at her house one day doing a demonstration on how to make a tree out of a newspaper or something. I don't know what it was. Anyhow, she had one of the little grandsons over, little fella. Wasn't Tom. Had his little fella over. She was doing the demonstration. This little guy come up to her and yanked her dress down and said, Grandma, I want wee-wee. Well, she thought, you know, if she'd ignore it, it'd go away. You folks know that's not the way that works. He come up and yanked a lot harder and yelled a little louder. I want a wee-wee. Well, she took it. She had in and said, now, honey, that's all right. I understand that. And the other grandmas do too, but it doesn't sound nice. I I said, next time you have to do something like that, say something else. Just tell me you want to whisper, and I'll understand that. Well, now that worked good for him the rest of the day. Real good. The only trouble was the kids slept with me that night. Right in the middle of the night, by gosh, she nudged me and said, Grandpa, I want to whisper. Well, I said, go ahead and whisper in my ear. Oh, gosh. You're a great group here. My schooling was in a little old red schoolhouse in Indiana. Went 12 years in the same building. Of course, today they tore that little old red schoolhouse down, and now we got a big schoolhouse that's in the red. But it's a nice place. I learned all of the things necessary for me to get along in this world. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. Well, we had I saw the first miracle I ever saw in that little old school, and never will forget it. We was working with some white mice in a little science class, and I had a little white mouse in my hand, little fella. Darn thing, don't you know, it jumped out of my hand, jumped down on the floor, jumped right up the teacher's dress. Well, now, folks, you talk about action, we had. That woman made one grab, and she got that mouse on the first grab. She hung on to him, studying what to do with him. And right then, folks, is when I saw the miracle. Because even though that mouse is only that long, don't you know, that woman squeezed about a gallon of water out of that mouse. You don't often see stuff like that now. We had blind dates back in those days, too. Some of you remember those? Boy, you got some dandies, didn't you? So did the girls. I was supposed to have this blind date with a girl out there in the country. 7 o'clock one summer evening. Oh, I was standing there, grinning. Had a new pair of bib overalls on. That was about it. Saw this girl walking along there. I said, are you Ethel? She said, are you Stubby? I said, yeah. She said, I ain't Ethel. The good thing, she was a homely girl. I don't know. I'd met her once before and forgot about her. I went running up to her on the street one day. I thought she's somebody else. And just as I got to her, she turned around right in my face. I said, I'm sorry, but I said, you look like Helen Brown. She said, I don't look a whole lot better in blue. I took her home and introduced her to Mom and Dad. By gosh, and I shouldn't have done it. They were getting old. But I did. Took her home there, introduced her to Mom and Dad. Then I took her back out in the car, locked it. Then I went back in the house. And I said, folks, what'd you think of it? Well, now, my mother wouldn't offend anybody for anything in the world. She said, well, now, Tom, you just got to realize that beauty is only skin deep. My dad was standing there. He said, I know, but danged if I don't believe we're going to have to skim this one. Having a wonderful time around home. You know, I went all over the world. Lived in Cincinnati and New York City and Chicago. And when I got ready to kind of settle down a little bit, went right back home where I grew up. I'm just 2 miles from the old home place. Enjoying life very much on the farm. Do a lot of things there. We got a nursing home there. I go over there and take my harmonica and play some songs for the folks and tell them a few stories, sing them a few songs. I was over there not long ago, and Aunt Min's over there, 90 years old, just a wonderful lady in the community, great sense of humor. Visited with her for the better part of an hour, I guess. All the time I was sitting there, I kept eating some peanuts she had there. You know how you do, a bowl. Darn if I didn't eat them about all before I left. And I was so embarrassed. I said, Aunt Min, darn if I didn't eat about all your peanuts. She said, that's all right. Since I lost my teeth, all I can do is just suck the chocolate off of them anyway.